Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Fortnite Battle Royale video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to be a Fortnite god and some more tips and tricks, but this video is going to be centered around how to make sure that you are closing out games in the late game or the mid to late game, doing the right steps to make sure that you're going to secure that victory and have the advantage when it comes down to the top 10 situation. Nothing is worse than playing a great game and coming in 2nd to 10th place. That is one of the worst feelings ever, and I know that a lot of people struggle with that when going for first wins or when going for a lot of wins is not really choking, but not successfully closing out the game. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you guys could smack a like on this video, that would be absolutely amazing. Let's go ahead and let's shoot for 310 likes. If you guys could all smack that like button, I would appreciate that. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and not already subscribed. We're almost at like 90,000 subscribers. I think we're really close to hitting it, and I'm on that road for 100,000. So thank you to everyone for the support. Smack a like, subscribe if you're new. Let's talk about this. Now, when it gets to the late game, zones are the #1 priority. Or I wouldn't say they're the #1 priority, but you need to pay attention to them. It's not like your full focus has to be looking at the map, looking at the timer, but you need to be very conscious of the zone. When the zone late game, the zone early game, if you get stuck in it and you run out, you're fine if you have bandages, med kit, chug jug, what else is there, campfire. But in the late game, it's not like that. You don't want to chase fights out of the zone. And the reason I see most people losing or choking late games is because they're not paying attention to the zone and they're not thinking ahead. And what I mean by thinking ahead is thinking to where the next zone is going to be. As soon as the circle closes in, it'll show you where the next zone is. So if you're ahead of people to get to that zone, you're going to be ahead of them to get to the next zone and basically be one step ahead the whole game. First tip I'll give you guys as far as the zone is don't chase fights out of the zone. This is something that can be very tempting. You see a couple people shooting, or more likely you hear them around a mountain, and you run over there and you get caught in the fight. They're better players than you expected. It's a build war and the zone starts coming in and you are completely screwed. That is something that you probably won't want to do unless you have a abundance of heals or a jump pad. Jump pads are one of the ways where you could take that fight. Most of the time, if you're in the early game, I say go for it. Do play however you want to play. But if you're in that late game, secure the victory, secure the rotations. Rotate early. Don't chase fights out of the zone. Of course, the other thing is that zones do more damage. And one thing about the zone is as the zone is coming in, it does a certain amount of damage. But once it hits and it's set, that damage goes up to the next tier. So if you're getting hit by a zone for 2 and you think you're all good, boom, that zone stops moving because it's hit its peak and it starts hitting you for 5. That's when you can really get in trouble. Don't play around with the zones in the late game. You can in the early mid game, but I would say make sure you don't do that. My next tip, which I would say this is a very top tier tip for late game, make sure as far as loot, you want to make sure you have good health and shield. I would say is very important, but the #1 priority in terms of loot would be building materials. If you have 100 materials or you have no materials, you basically have no chance at the late game. The fact is that even if you have a common rifle or a green rifle or whatever, that stuff is manageable. You can win fights. Of course, it's going to be tougher to win with the green rifle over a scar, but if you don't have materials, you're basically at the enemy's mercy, and if they're a good player, they will completely destroy you. Do anything to get materials. That's why, like, it's worth risking your life to go and try to fight someone that you see open to get materials off of them, or to just run out and farm everything, farm trees, everything on the way to your zones. Make sure that you have materials. Personally, for me, I like to stay, in the early mid game, it's not as important, but in the late game, I want to have at least 400 materials. That's my minimum. I would prefer to have around like 800 in total, maybe 400 of one, 400 of another. But I think that if you have 400 or maybe even 300, you should be good. You just have to be a little more conscious of it. I like to have 800 so I can just do what I want to do. The #1 strategy to make sure that you don't choke these games and as you're rotating early, as you have materials, is to just build one by ones. 4 walls ramp, 4 walls ramp, 4 walls ramp. Build those up about 3 or 4 levels. I'd say about 3 levels is good. And just wait there. Have the advantage. Look to the edges of the zone. People will be running in. You'll get free kills as long as you don't peek too hard. And then once you see that next zone where it's going to be, start making your move for it. Unless it's a super, if it's a super far way away, you should start making your move as well. But you should take it a little bit slower. I see so many people that say, oh, I got 2 minutes to move, whatever. And then eventually they get pulled up on and boom, 2 minutes can go faster than you can expect. I like to rotate early. That's a key that I like to do to close out of my games. Rotate to the next zone, build up another one by one, and then look around to where you just were or where people you think are going to be coming in from interest points and pick them off. Next tip is for if you're playing with squads. Of course, these tips can work for squads, solos, duos, whatever. In this gameplay here, I'm just playing squads and I'm just going ham with jump pads and rushing people. In squads, it's a lot, you can play a lot more aggressive late game because you have 4 people to back you up. The key for late game in squads or in duos is to make sure you have your whole team alive, and if you get knocked down, to call to your teammates and communicate. That's how I did in this game. These tips that I'm giving here are more for solo, but for squad tips, the number one tip I would say for you that is to expect a lot of fights in squads. In squads or duos, a lot of people in a small zone, they're going to be pulling up on you. Next tip I would say is to ask for jump pads. A lot of time, a person in your squad will have a jump pad and not even notice. So ask, does anyone have a jump pad? Does anyone have a jump pad? I used some in this gameplay. It allowed me to make some nice plays and to be able to get the last couple of kills for this win because of jump pads. And of course, if you're in a squad, you have 4 times the chance of having a jump pad on your team, and you can all use it together. If you're playing with squads, it's more of a move with the team collectively and expect a lot of fights, because getting third partied in a solo means you're against 1v2 basically. Third partied in a squad means there's 8 potential enemies there. So you can play it a little more aggressively, but at the same time, you have to be aware of your surroundings more in squads and duos. Of course, as solos up to squads, the fights are going to get bigger with more people on each team. So that's the tips I would give for as far as that. Always think about the third-party fights whenever you're in the zone and it's getting smaller. Third-party fights can either go 2 ways, okay? If you're fighting someone or your team's fighting a team, even if you kill that whole team, and you would kill that whole team once you see the last guy eliminated and the kill feed lights up, be aware, because there's probably another team pulling up on you if that zone is small. Same things in solos. If they hear you having a build fight, a shotgun fight, an AR fight, whatever it is, a third party, most likely there's going to be a player that's going to come over to that vicinity. So even when you kill that guy, don't always go straight for the loot of the dead team or the dead player. Usually what you're going to want to do is heal up, use what you have, then head over to the loot, just in case you don't get caught with your pants down, I guess you could call it. That's a tip I would say as far as that. As far as working the third party, it also works on the other front, your team or yourself. If you hear people fighting, you can pull up, get some free kills, and shoot them in the back, which can be a very, very good strategy, because usually when it comes down to the late game, there's going to be a couple of good teams or good players, and there's going to be a couple of hiders or more casual players. We all know the people, hiders, you want to look out for them. They like to hide below your base. That's the number one thing. When you rotate out of a base, take a look back, because sometimes people like to hide. A lot of people who hide in solos don't really know how to build, so they'll hide at the bottom of your base and sort of use your stuff as cover, and they can catch you on the rotations. Also, bushes. Bushes are just the number one camping spot in this game. I'm not sure why they made the bushes that can completely hide people's bodies, but that's what they do. Always watch for bushes. I don't think as many people use them as they used to, but it still can be pretty prevalent. Now, in the late game, if you take out the good players, or you take out the good teams, by third partying them or getting the upper hand on them, playing smart by taking them out, you're going to have a breeze through the late game, because it'll be the rest of the teams that aren't very good. Of course, some people make it to the late game by being good, outgunning people, good rotations. Others make it by just running to the zone, hiding, running to the next zone, hiding. So that's the difference between the people in the late game. Of course, there'll be some mid-level players there as well. So what I suggest is playing safe when you're in those bases, you're in those 1v1s. Play safe, but if you have the opportunity for a kill, take it, as long as you don't peek too long, because snipers are abundant in solo, and if you're peeking too long one way or you're aimed down sights with your sniper, there's no telling that there's not a sniper behind you aiming down sights at the back of your dome ready to rip it off your head. So that's what I would say as far as that. Play safe late game, rotate early, build up, but take opportunities for kills. And if you see good players fighting, you can usually tell they're good by the amount of builds that are happening. If there's 2 huge towers and huge buildings all over the place, that's a good player fight. You want to third party those good player fights, take out the good players, have yourself at an advantage, where in the late game, you only have to deal with mid-level or, more hiding players, and that's how you can close out games. As far as playing it safe, that's definitely what you want to do, but I see some people that play it a little too safe, and then they come out, and you never want to, come out, maybe you're hiding in a building or something, and you come out in the late game in a 1v1, and the other guy's already built a freaking Tilted Towers castle for himself. You're absolutely screwed. So the blend of safe but also taking those opportunities when they come, third partying people for your fights, and taking people, killing them when they're either busy fighting someone else, they're busy on that rotation because you out-rotated them. That's when you want to take the fights. Of course, you're going to have to win some one-on-one direct fights, especially with the last guy. That's usually a fight that you're going to have to win, and usually the better player or the more looted player will win that one. But these are all the tips I have for how to close out a game, from solos to duos to squads. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys could smack a like on this thing, I would really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We're almost over 90,000 subs, and that's about it, guys. Have a great night. Drop a like, and I'm out. Peace.